The early hominins. The emergence of the genus Homo. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis. Then, of course, Homo sapiens. 7 million years. From ape-like species who could only climb trees and eat branches to watching a YouTube video on evolution with a Big Mac and a can of Coke. We truly have come a long way. But if there is something the last 7 million years have taught us, it's that evolution is constant. This then leads to the million-dollar question, what is the next step of human evolution? Or to the billion-dollar question, what if the next step in human evolution is not natural? What if it's triggered by something we are told would save us? Let's briefly try our hands at Hollywood. Imagine a world where humans have faced a dangerous plague that has affected the atmosphere, wiping away 1/3 of the population. After years of futile searching, scientists finally discovered a cure. Let's call it mana. Anyone who takes mana is immune to the toxic effects of the atmosphere because it forces a mutation in the body that can tolerate the toxicity in the environment. Unfortunately, there is a limited supply of mana, which means that the choice of who survives rests solely on human discretion. And as history famously tells us, there is nothing humans love more than power. So corporations take full advantage, bending the world even more forcefully to their tune. The implication of disobedience is as hefty as it gets: death. A loophole develops, though. People who do not have mana find out that their offspring with people who take mana can survive the toxic atmosphere. Eventually, a world of people who can survive the atmosphere without mana takes shape. Human evolution wins. That's the skeleton of our script. Before you grade it, just know we throw in some romance between one of the corporation leader's daughter and the son of one of the poorest, less privileged mana-less humans. Then, maybe some betrayal at the top. And some fights. Of course, some drugs and pointless sex. You know, the full Hollywood package. This story is not just fiction, though. This may very well be the next step of human evolution. The inevitable need to adapt to man made problems. And the key to this adaptation: mutation. What even are mutations? To understand mutations, you need to first understand what makes us human: DNA and genes. Prepare for a biology class. DNA is a long, twisted molecule that carries instructions humans need to grow and function. Genes, meanwhile, are specific segments or sequences of DNA that act as units of heredity. In simple terms, DNA carries genetic information that we need to survive. The DNA molecule is made of 4 chemical bases known as nucleotides: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Adenine always binds with thymine, while cytosine always binds with guanine. A sequence of 3 nucleotide bases is known as codons, specifying an exact genetic code. This genetic code is necessary to make proteins in the cell, which carry out the different body functions. To actually create proteins, though, the DNA sequence code needs to be converted into mRNA, ribonucleic acid, in a process known as transcription. The same joining pattern remains, only that uracil replaces thymine in the mRNA codon. In the cell, ribosomes then read the mRNA code and assemble amino acids groten into the actual proteins that the cell utilizes. This process is known as translation. For example, OG is the code for an amino acid, methionine, which is useful in metabolic pathways, detoxification processes, and DNA-RNA regulation. What's more, methionine is a precursor for glutathione and taurine, which provide powerful antioxidant activity. Don't get bored now. Here comes the interesting part. Sometimes, when the cell is dividing, there are mistakes in DNA sequences, causing permanent genetic code changes. This is known as mutation. The exact mutations may be due to substitution, replacing a nucleotide base with another one. Deletion, as you would imagine, deleting a nucleotide from the DNA sequence. Or insertion again, pretty self-explanatory. Inserting a new nucleotide into the sequence. What happens when DNA mutates? Now to the interesting part. Yeah, we know we said that before, but we really mean it this time. What happens when cells mutate? That's not a rhetorical question, by the way, give it a try. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. If you're a Marvel Comics fan, your answer may be in the line of a visit from Professor X, asking you to join the X-Men because of your newly found powers. We call dibs on super speed, for what it's worth. However, if you are a biologist, or a doctor, or a molecular scientist, your first thought is probably cancer. Depending on your specialty, you may also name some rare medical conditions. Both answers are valid. Yes, we really just equated comic books to the world's most dangerous disease. Sorry, not sorry. In reality, though, it is super unlikely to have superpowers from mutation. In fact, the vast majority of mutations have neutral effects. In other words, they simply do nothing. No superpowers, no deadly health conditions, just nothing. For instance, having blue eyes instead of brown eyes, or having a slightly weirdly shaped earlobe. This outcome is, without question, the most boring one, but it's also the most common, and by an extremely significant margin. For mutations that do have effects, they could be beneficial or harmful. This should be the fun stuff, but it's really not so fun, because most of the mutations that have effects are harmful. Sickle cell, Marfan syndrome, cystic fibrosis, and of course, cancer. Even less severe outcomes like lower fitness levels and obesity are still potentially life-changing. Finally, the beneficial mutations. They are very rare, like much less than 1% rare. Recent studies even show that these beneficial mutations are rarer than originally thought, so Crispr 1%. Why? Well, because of how perfect we humans are. And we are only slightly exaggerating. Humans have evolved over 7 million years, and the point of evolution is to survive. This is why monkeys and chimps and gorillas and orangutans are still climbing and eating plant stems, while we are paying taxes to fund intercontinental ballistic missiles. The goal of evolution is not to achieve perfection, it's survival. Since we humans are surviving quite well on the planet, any change in our complex DNA structure is a break from the norm that took nature 7 million years to curate and perfect. As such, it's more likely to be harmful than beneficial. Also, while most mutations are truly random, there is evidence that mutations can also be influenced by the environment. And since the environment is frequently changing, the chances of a mutation persisting across generations are low. Not to mention that the site of the DNA sequence where mutation actually occurs. Human DNA contains about 3 billion nucleotide base pairs. We take a quick detour to a maths class. Since each position can only be occupied by one of 4 nucleotides, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, the number of possible genetic combinations is inconceivably large. By inconceivably large, we mean 4 possible combinations. That's significantly more than the estimated number of particles in the observable universe. So, there's actually a very high chance that a mutation occurs in a non-essential part of the sequence and just does nothing. Still, against the odds, some mutations have broken the boring, nothing good ever happens trend and become beneficial mutations passed down across generations. Real-world examples from modern history. Perhaps the most common, lactose intolerance. Originally, humans, like other mammals, lose the ability to digest lactose, the sugar from milk, in adulthood because they stop producing the enzyme after childhood. However, with the rise of agriculture, humans began to live in closer proximity to dairy animals. So, when mutations that prevented the decrease of lactase production emerged, they became seen as beneficial. Eventually, these mutations became evident in large population groups. Therefore, we, at least some of us, owe our ability to drink milk without turning into a gas bomb to the lactase persistence mutation. Note, though, that this mutation was likely random. In other words, it wasn't directly due to consuming more milk, but just random. And, as fate would have it, people with that mutation thrived more in environments surrounded by milk-producing animals. So evolution just took its course. Please never forget that environmental factors always influence evolution, even if a direct link is less obvious with mutations. Another beneficial mutation is resistance to malaria by people with a sickle cell trait. Sickle cell itself is a result of a mutation in the hemoglobin Br gene, causing red blood cells to sickle. However, this sickled shape prevents the malaria parasite from properly growing and spreading in the blood, eventually increasing malaria resistance. Yet another example of beneficial mutation that persisted over generations is among populations in Tibet, who are able to live more efficiently in environments with low oxygen due to high altitude. Basically, genetic mutations allow such individuals to thrive in those environments without the associated altitude sickness that comes with simply increasing red blood cell counts. Mutation, evolution, and the environment. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, we must again highlight the role environmental factors play in both mutations and evolution. Some factors like UV radiation, cigarette smoke, charred foods, pesticides, and some heavy metals like arsenic and chromium can increase the risk of mutation. Environmental pressures also act as a sieve for organisms, allowing the strong and adaptable ones to survive, while the weak, non-adaptable ones die. In other words, natural selection. The rate at which the environment changes can influence the speed of evolution. Having established the role environmental factors play, we can then ask if it's possible to manually direct and influence both mutation and evolution. Like, is there ever a chance where the big corporations and decision makers on the planet make an environment so toxic and then sell us a magic cure that mutates the gene and improves the chances of survival in the new world? Well, you're gonna want to hear this. Emerging technologies in mutation control and evolution. In 2012, Dr. Jennifer Doudna and Dr. Emmanuel Charpentier developed a gene editing technology, CRISPR-Cas9. While the original discovery of CRISPR dates back to 1987 in E. coli bacteria, it was not until 2013 that the gene editing technology was used to edit human cells. We've done biology and maths, so we wouldn't want to bore you with some chemistry. But know that this technology essentially uses a guide RNA to direct the Cas9 enzyme, known as molecular scissors, because it has the ability to cut DNA strands to specific DNA sequences. By cutting faulty DNA sequences in certain conditions, like the cell can then repair itself by inserting and deleting nucleotides or using a supplied DNA template to repair the mutated DNA sequence. Dr. Jennifer Doudna and Dr. Emmanuel Charpentier ended up winning the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their work in 2020. Today, there are newer tools that allow for even more precise mutation editing at the single nucleotide level. So, it functions more like pencils rather than scissors, editing specific points and achieving specific goals. More recently, researchers have also begun using CRISPR to introduce specific gene traits to certain species, like coral reefs and black-footed ferrets, to increase their chances of surviving their adverse conditions. They call it artificial selection. Another route scientists have been exploring of late is altering environmental conditions to force mutations and drive evolution. This is just as it sounds, really. Scientists identify certain environmental factors that possibly influence mutation and evolution. Then, they tweak these environmental factors and subject species to them, forcing them to evolve. This technique is rapidly catching on in the fight against mosquitoes and malaria in Africa. Artificial intelligence and large language models are also not going to be left out. To be fair, it's only right, considering just how much they are shoved in our faces today. Basically, AI predicts beneficial mutations, and then LLMs simulate up to 500 million generations of that specific mutation. A quick answer then can be gotten on what the eventual result of that specific mutation editing would be. This saves a lot of guesswork and makes the process more efficient. The point is, work is currently and fast underway to gain the upper hand in controlling mutation and evolution. Future possibilities, mutation and evolution. The possibilities with new technologies of mutation and evolution are endless. The most obvious seems to be cancer and other conditions caused by mutations. Like, maybe there will be technology to simply correct the mistake in affected DNA sequences. This technology can also theoretically extend to other conditions. Maybe there would be specific cells designed to fight different conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. The prospects in the medical field are particularly exciting. There seriously may be a time where virtually all conditions are treatable. However, it may be more drastic. Maybe there would be such advanced gene editing that could make humans more resistant to the cold or the heat. Or even more drastic, one that would extend our lifespan. Or, and you know we just had to, one that gives us superpowers. Who knows? The possibilities truly are endless. So, to answer the question we asked earlier, is there ever a chance where the big corporations and decision makers on the planet make an environment so toxic and then sell us a magic cure that mutates the gene and improves the chances of survival in the new world? Yes, this is certainly a possibility. As a matter of fact, it is something that must be actively monitored in the next stage of human evolution. Because, you know, humans will be humans. Like long before humans even developed the concept of gene editing, there were programs to selectively breed certain individuals for certain desirable traits. In case you were wondering when, well, there was this failed Austrian painter who had big ideas about a superior race and ended up killing more than 70,000 disabled people and some other 6 million thereabouts, but we digress. The point is, while current technologies offer promising future possibilities for the use of beneficial mutations in evolution, there will always remain the risk of other individuals using the same technology to further sick, twisted ideas. Evolution is constant. But what if the next stage of human evolution is not something that happens over millions of years? What if it's already happening? What if it's inside labs and test tubes and not trees and caves? What if mutation, but intentional and controlled, is the next stage of human evolution?